If I could have your attention. We got a real treat this
me because I've been losing a lot of weight. I just want to make sure. So, all right, before I start talking about identity theft, I have to do something, and this is not something I would do on a norm, but I have to do it here. Tommy Mack, could you come up here, just meet me just a little bit up here, please, buddy? If you could just come right down the aisle there. Tommy Mack told me he was going to heckle me today. We play basketball together, and I'm a lot better than he is, by the way. But I figure if we're going to do the heckling, I'm going to do it. So, Tommy, I just want to give you a big hug in front of everybody and tell you I love you, brother. If you've never seen him play basketball, the guy's actually phenomenal. So I always try and get on his team so I can win. That's what I do. But all right, again, thank you for not only letting me be here today, but thank you for letting me serve as your sheriff. I am having a blast. Our team, the 1,300 men and women of this agency, are getting it done, and they are putting bad people in jail every day, and they're enjoying their jobs and the support that we get from our community. We've started pushing out a lot on crime prevention. Our theory is that if we get you the vital information you need, you become an extension of us. If we tell you everything you need to know about identity theft, for example, we're giving you the ability to help protect yourself. And in doing so, you become an extension of us. So there's a series of courses that we teach. This one, self-defense through mental preparedness, overview of crime in America, all of those. And when we're pushing them out, the key goal is to get you as much information as we can about that crime so you know how to protect yourself, your family, your industry, everything else from this type of crime. So when we talk about identity theft, I always start in one location. How many of you in this room have been the victim of identity theft or credit card fraud? Raise your hand for me. Please keep your hands up for just a second. In addition to that, how many of you have gotten a letter in the mail that tells you your information's been compromised by a company that has it? Insurance company, doctor, or something like that. Look around the room. Everybody spin and look around the room. We crushed the national average. The national average is that 1 in every 10 Americans will be targeted by identity thieves or credit card fraud. That's insane. We blow that away. Look at what we just did here with our numbers. In fact, you'll see as we go through this PowerPoint presentation that it's even worse than what we just demonstrated. The Federal Trade Commission estimates that 11.2 million Americans became targets of identity theft last year. 11.2. There is no other crime that has the tentacles to reach into our lives like identity theft. Years ago, when I worked for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, I'd go out and I'd speak to groups much like yourself, and I would say, identity theft is the fastest growing crime in the state of Florida. Within about 5 years, I started telling those same groups, it's the fastest growing crime in the country. Today, I will tell you that the Federal Trade Commission and the FBI have listed it as the fastest growing crime in the world. It is also the most lucrative crime in the world. There is nothing else that touches it like this. There is nothing else that has the ability to reach into every one of our lives, regardless of age, and target us. This crime has that ability, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It is the gift that once you become a victim, you can't go, whew, man, that's never going to happen again, because it is. In fact, the criminals know that you are going to spend all of your passion trying to get back to where you were before. And 6 months from now, after you've gotten reestablished and restabilized, they are going to target you again because they've kept your information, they've kept your name and everything else. So as we go through this presentation, you guys just get here when you want. Don't worry about me. All right. You guys made the girl with the broke leg get up and get out of her seat? So, wow, man. All right, let's go into this. Let's jump in and figure out how bad is this problem. So as we go, let's look at the scope of the problem. All right? How bad is it? 11.2 million Americans. The Federal Trade Commission says that 11.2 million Americans were targeted. So let's find out how accurate that is. The only way you get a number in the box with the Federal Trade Commission is if the victim themselves calls and says, I've been a victim. Law enforcement doesn't report it. Banks don't report it. Credit bureaus don't report it. None of them report it. Only the victim can report to the Federal Trade Commission. So they say 11.2 million Americans. How many of you that held your hand up a few minutes ago called the Federal Trade Commission? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of all the people that had their hands up. So that 11.2 is off the charts. It's not even close. It's not even close to being accurate as to what we're dealing with. Generations of identity theft. I'm going to tell you, if I were an identity thief, how I'd steal your stuff. How would I take your information? If you know how I would steal it, you know how to protect it. You know how to keep it in safeguard. And then proactive and reactive measures. By proactive, I want you to do things to keep it from ever happening. I will tell you, there is no silver bullet to this crime. There is no, if you do this, 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 and this, you won't become the victim of identity theft. What I want you to do is strap on your bulletproof vest. As law enforcement officers, we wear bulletproof vests. I have on one now. That's what makes me look kind of chubby in here. But, right, Tommy? Remember, we're going to be on the court again, brother. All right. I want you to put on your bulletproof vest. Your bulletproof vest doesn't guarantee you're not going to be shot. It doesn't guarantee you won't be hit in the legs, arm, or head. It just protects the largest part of your body. So I want you to put it on and be proactive with me. Then I want you to be reactive. If everything we talk about fails, I want you to know it's failed immediately so that we can start putting a stop to it, so that we can keep you from getting further victimized and protect the person next to you that's going to be victimized as well. So that's what we'll deal with as we go through. All right, this is what you're in store for. Most people walked away from your talk feeling they needed to close their bank accounts, destroy their computers, keep their money under their mattresses, use cash only, don't use cell phones, regular phones, the post office, and speak to only people that they know and in person in a lead-walled room naked. There is nothing in your brochure that talks about that last line. I can tell you that. But that's what you're going to feel like. This was from a person that had sat through the same presentation you're going to do and sent me that email the next day saying, this is what I walked away with feeling. This is about scared straight. I want you to walk out of this room today, if you've never thought about identity theft before, or credit card fraud, I want you to walk out of this room today thinking about it, thinking about your necessity to protect yourself, protect your family, and understand this is going to happen to you if you don't take action to keep it from happening. And then it's still going to happen if we're not careful. All right, let's look at our state statute. 817.568 broadly defines it. It says ranges from unauthorized use of a credit card or check to a comprehensive takeover of another person's identity. Results in the loss of assets, creditworthiness, and good name. Now, that statute was written by a guy by the name of Tom Sadika, who used to be with the statewide prosecutor's office now. And Tom built into it. I remember when we were doing it, because I was running the statewide task force for identity theft at the time. I remember when we were building it, Tom said, it's not about your credit anymore. This is not about your credit. All right? Your credit's just one small component. Today, we see people that are being targeted from every aspect you can imagine. We see people that they're getting government benefits in their name. They're getting jobs in their name. We just arrested 2 right down here in Cocoa that were working off of somebody else's name, had gotten a job with them. This is about people getting arrested in your name. They steal your identity. They get arrested. They get carted to jail. They bond out. They're not going back to court because they're out free. You're driving down the road. You get stopped for running a stop sign. They run your information, and now you're being cuffed and stuff, taken off to jail for a failure to appear warrant. It happens not once in a while. It happens all the time. And when you get arrested, you're going to spend a couple days in jail before our team can get you out and demonstrate it wasn't really you that got arrested the first time. So when we look at this isn't just about your credit anymore. This is about your life. I grew up in a small town called Green Cove Springs, Florida. Who's ever heard of that? Anybody? Wow, that's unusual. A lot of people have not, all right? My father, who was the smartest man in the world, used to always tell me, son, the 2 things you need in life to be successful are your good name and good credit. That's what this attacks. It's not just about your credit, though. It's about your good name. It's about them using your name for things that you never dreamed you would. It's about them going and getting jobs and everything else in your name where you didn't even know it was happening. So, as we look at the statute, I will also tell you Florida is very fortunate. It is, in my opinion, the single strongest piece of legislation on the identity theft world that there is in the country. New York, California, other states have all imaged theirs after us. They have all made their statute look exactly like we have. So it's a living, breathing document. It changes almost annually with some of the things we have to upgrade it with. All right, this is what's protected. Now, I want you to look at this list, and I want you to start thinking about where we've come from. Look at number 1, an individual's name. Your name is automatically protected. A lot of times when you become a victim, the bank or the credit card company or whomever will say, you don't have to call law enforcement because you're not a victim because you're not out any money. The moment someone uses your name or any of these other identifiers up here without your permission, you're a victim. Don't have to be out a single dime. In fact, in most cases, unless it's a fraud or unless it's a scam, you're not out any money. The credit card company's going to give you your money back. The bank's going to give you your money back. You're a victim. And if you don't call law enforcement, the victimization is going to continue because we don't even know to go out and search for someone. The banks aren't going to call us. The credit card companies aren't going to call us. None of them are. We have to have you call us. So make sure you're doing it. An individual's address, telephone number, unique identifying driver's license number. Let's get to number 5, Social Security number. All right? As an identity thief, that's what I want. That is the most impressive piece of document I can get. Let's see how well we protect it. How many of you have your Social Security card in your wallet or purse right now? Raise your hand for me. All right, put them up high. Be proud. All right, you guys can go ahead and leave because I can't help y'all. If y'all still carrying that with you right now, there's no way I can help. How many of you have it at home in a safe? Okay, this is the big question. Does the safe have a handle on it? Is it one of those little safes that's about that big? The handle so the thief can carry it out the door. That's what that's for. All right? How many of you have it in a safety deposit box? All right, perfect. How many of you don't have a Social Security number? Immigration is a big issue right now. I may get an arrest just like that. You trick people sometimes, you get them, all right? But no, I failed, man. All right. You know what? My Social Security number, my card is right here in my wallet. It's with my credit cards. It's with my driver's license. I think I have the miniature birth certificates of my children in here. This is one-stop shopping. You know why? Because your Social Security number, the thing that we hold most precious to us as an identifier, it's absolutely nothing, worth nothing now. I can go into chat rooms on the internet and buy Social Security numbers all day long for $14 because everybody has it. Think about every place you've ever left your Social Security number. Think about it. And we'll talk about how we protect it as we go through. All right, we come on down. We get to number 8, the maiden name of an individual's mother. We caused that. We caused that to have to be added to our list because we started creating it as a security feature. We started creating it so that you'd have to ask for the maiden name. How hard is it for me to get your mother's maiden name? All I need is your birth certificate. I call Bureau of Vital Statistics. I order your birth certificate because it's public record, and now I've got all your information, your parents' information, everything else. We created it trying to put in something that really wasn't that great a measure anyway, but now we have to protect it, so it's all protected. You continue over, you keep coming down, and finally you get to number 13. Number 13, an individual's unique biometric data, including fingerprint, voice print, retina or iris image, or any other unique physical representation. That's where we are with this crime. That's everything that we are protecting. When you see this again next year, it will have a number 14 on it. It will have a number 15 because it's a living, breathing document that we continually have to update because the criminals get better at what they do. Every security measure we put in place to protect you, within about 6 months, the criminal element will figure out how to defeat it. That's all they do. They sit there and focus on it, trying to figure out how to do it. All right. Now, if you've ever been to one of my classes before, you are not allowed to answer this. What is the oldest case of identity theft that we actually have a documented report of? Does anybody know? This is a gift question. In the Bible? Okay. You be more specific. Da-na-na-na. The twin brothers, all right? Esau and Jacob, that's exactly right. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to give you your gift. I got a hug for you. Let me come right through here.
I'm loving you, man.
Love you too, brother. Thanks for being here today.
All right.
Well, I sure hope some of the girls start to get answers correct here. It's kind of freaking me out a little bit. All right, he's exactly right. It's the story of Esau and Jacob. That's the oldest case that we can actually have a documented report of. Twin brothers, one born just moments before, as such, was entitled to the firstborn birthrights. When it came time for the father who was dying to bless him, he's on a hunting trip. The co-conspirator becomes Rebecca, the mom. She actually sends the second-born in. If she were here today and we worked that case, we'd arrest her too. We'd send her on her way. But she sends the second-born in. He had 3 tools. He had a pot of stew that the father loved. He put on his brother's coat because his father's sense of smell was enhanced. And he put goat hair on his arms because Esau was redheaded and the hair on his arms was very coarse. If the father touched him during the blessing, it would assure him it was Esau. Those were his tools. Now I want you to fast forward to August of 2009 when a man by the name of Albert Gonzalez targeted 130 million people. He didn't use goat hair. He used war driving, botnets, Zeus. Those were his tools. Identity theft's not new. It's evolved. It has taken on a persona that none of us ever imagined it would. It has taken on a life of its own, and since it has been around since biblical times, what makes us think that if we follow the directions in a brochure, we're going to wipe it out? We're not. It is here. We're going to have to deal with it. Technology is unintentionally breeding this crime, but we are going to have to deal with it. A lot of times when I throw up this as a history lesson, people go, that's pretty good, but you got anything else? Yeah, I sure do. All right, let's go into Shakespeare. Any Shakespeare fans in here? Really? Man, that's like the second time anybody's ever admitted to being a Shakespeare fan. I wouldn't admit it. All right, in the play Othello, Act 3, Scene 3. Iago says, good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing. 'Twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him and makes me poor indeed. Shakespeare's talking about identity theft. The Bible's talking about identity theft. It's been around forever. It's an evolution. It has taken on a life of its own, and it's amazing to the points that it goes. All right, it's the fastest growing crime in the world. Technology unintentionally breeds this crime. Vast amounts of information readily available. Where is your Social Security number? Tell me where it is. Every doctor you've ever been to, every job you've ever had, every place you went to school, every place your children went to school, every place you've ever given blood, surgery, cars, houses, military. I can go on all day long. Every HR department, everywhere. That's where your information is. So the vast amounts of it is actually causing us to struggle. We're able to secure goods and credits instantaneously through the internet, and the electronic commerce makes it more difficult. By that, what I mean is somebody targeting you, targeting your bank account, could be sitting in South Korea right now, and even though we would be able to chase the IP address to where they are, the ability to put them behind the computer, the ability to get them extradited and bring them back is almost non-existent. We could not do it. So somebody's going to be able to sit there, target you, and if they're successful, great. If they're unsuccessful, they move on to the next one. The electronic commerce has created a major gap in our ability. Even though our state statute gives us the ability to prosecute you, if the victim lives in the state of Florida, regardless of if they became a target in Iowa and their information was used in California, 817.568 gives us the ability to charge them in Florida because that's where our victim lives. That's the way we structured the statute, knowing what the electronic commerce does. Okay, what problems do we face? First of all, it's funding, just like everybody else. All right, law enforcement has felt the budget crunch, the economy crunch. So our funding is somewhat restricted. As a sheriff or an agency head, I've got X number of dollars to spend on investigations. Am I going to spend them working identity theft or homicide and drugs? You have to create that hierarchy. You have to say, I got to keep people physically safe before I can keep them economically safe. We did a little bit differently here. We just started a task force back in May that partnered with Titusville, Palm Bay, Melbourne. Our agency, the IRS, and the State Comptroller's Office created a 12-person task force that now works nothing but identity theft and fraud. That's all they do. We didn't ask for more positions. We took existing positions that the shelf life of their crimes, the things they were focused on, had expired, and we moved them into this realm. Before we did that, there was no law enforcement agency in Brevard County that was investigating identity theft. They'd take a report and move on. That's all they did. They gave you a number so that you could talk to the credit bureaus. So funding's a problem. Other crimes take precedence. Just talked about it in some degree about how we investigate, but how about how we sentence? When we look at our sentencing, we see that we're putting more emphasis on the violent criminals, on the drugs and everything else, as we should. I mean, those crimes are the ones we have to keep you physically safe. But as the prisons fill up, the ones they start letting go first are the ones that are the nonviolent crimes, the economic crimes, the identity theft. But let's look at it from a little bit different aspect. What are we very proud of here in our state about violent crime? Think about it for a minute. If I rob a bank today using a gun, when I walk into that bank, what's the national average of money that I will walk out the door with? Anybody know? Everybody's scared to answer now. They think they're getting a hug, right? That's how it usually works. About this point, everybody's quiet, all right? National average is $3,000. That is the national average. So I walked into the bank. I've robbed it. I know that the police are coming. I may have to take hostages. I'm on every video camera in the bank. I know the police are coming. I've got to have a getaway. In fact, I got to have a getaway driver because no self-respecting bank robbery would not have a driver, right? Got to have that. So now I got to split my $3,000. And if I'm caught, what happens? I go to jail for 10, 20 life. We're very proud of that. We put it up on billboards and everything else throughout our state. 10, 20 life. I can walk into that same bank, use this as my weapon, walk out the door with $50,000. It'll be 12.7 months before the victim figures out I targeted them. And if I'm caught, I will be 1 in 700 that is actually sentenced to prison. Any idea why this crime might be on the rise? Go and do $3,000 and everybody in there is looking for you within 10 seconds. 12.7 months, and I've walked out with 50,000. There's no doubt why this goes up, all right? Victims advocacy. We as law enforcement, has not done a good job in the advocacy side of it. A victim calls us, we take a report, and we send them on their way. We have improved in that area. We are now, in fact, we've tasked our own internal advocacy team with actually working with identity theft victims, helping them, especially when we consider that a large amount of them are seniors. So we are helping them through that process. We're being able to help them deal with the different scenarios they're going to be faced with as they go through. And then our investigative and prosecutive continuity, we've done much better in that in the past 3 years across the board, across the country. We're doing trainings and everything else so that everybody's prosecuting the same way. If I charge you with identity theft, you are going to be 1 in 700. If I charge you with multiple counts of identity theft in an organized fraud, with a racketeering charge, with electronics fraud and everything else, you're going to go away for 15 years. That's what we're doing. That's what our task force focuses on, is charging them in that capacity. All right, let's look at some good news. In 2009, the state of Florida ranked number 1. We were number 1 in identity theft. You know, Florida, we like to be number 1. All right, if we're going to do something, we want to do it right. So in 2000, we had 22,664 complaints that were filed. That's the good news. This is the bad news. We're still number 1. All right, except our numbers went up. Now we're up to almost 70,000. This left-hand column I felt was really important because if you look at the statistics from last year, Florida's still number 1, but in the left-hand column, we used to be number 6 or number 7. The left-hand column is fraud overall, insurance fraud, Medicaid fraud, scam fraud, homeowners fraud, all of it combined. Now we rank number 1 in both counts, on both pages. So if you're going to do it big, right? I mean, that's what we're thinking here. All right, approximately 14% of the reported cases are credit card fraud. 19% are undefined. We know that they're identity theft. We're just not really sure what category they go into. 10% are utilities fraud. That could range in anything from buying a cell phone to having power turned on at their house. Believe it or not, we see a lot of parents today that have destroyed their own credit. They use their children's information to get power turned on at their house and actually make their child a victim of identity theft. It gets a lot worse, too. We see them that are using it to do everything with. 46% of the cases are government document related. That is a massive jump. 2 years ago, that was at 11%, but now we are seeing it as it just continues to grow. One of those government document related is the IRS scam, which I know a bunch of our firemen from out here got hit with. I think we had 49 firefighters from out here at the Space Center that got hit with that. They go to file their taxes. Somebody's already filed their taxes, and now it gets kicked back, and they have to deal with the headaches of it. They have to deal with everything else. All of that falls under. Just out of a point of interest, the IRS estimates that last year they lost $2.2 billion to identity theft with tax returns. So it just gives you an idea of where it's going. Can it be geographical? Absolutely. The state of Arizona, employment fraud's at 19%. National average is 5%. Why? What's different in Arizona? They're a border state. People are coming over using it for different things, different components. It's not just about your credit anymore. All right, who's the most likely to get targeted? If we look at this bar graph, we would think people between the ages of 20 and 49 are the most likely victims of identity theft. I will tell you that the people between the ages of 20 and 49 are the most likely people to report to the FTC being a victim of identity theft. Our seniors are the most likely victims of this crime. When we look at the types of cases we work, it's generally heading up towards the 60 years old and older. That's the most likely. But as I said, it doesn't care. It will target you if you are 2 years old. I travel around the country some with a young man by the name of Zach. Zach actually was a victim of identity theft when he was 11 years old. He did not find out until he started applying for student loans when he went to college, and they had done almost $1 million worth of damage in his name. No one ever checked his credit. No one ever knew to look for it. So it is our seniors that are the most prominent in targeting. All right, who's to blame for this mess? Do we blame the financial institutions? Do they have any culpability here? How many of you think they do? How many of you think the banks have some bad credit here, if you will? How about if I told you that the average bank in the state of Florida will not charge you or will not report identity theft for anything over $10,000? So if you go into their bank and you steal $9,999, they won't even report it. Does that add to culpability here? Is that like saying, come in and take my money? Absolutely. It's not worth the negative marketing. It's not worth the headache to them. They'll pass it on in other fees and everything to everybody else. So yeah, I think the financial institutions have to take a little bit of hit. How about the credit card companies? They have any culpability? Absolutely. All right? They're the first one to tell you don't need to report it. They're also passing it along. When you look at financial institutions, credit card companies, and the likes of those, they get to write off bad debt and fraud on their taxes. Bad debt is they give somebody a credit card and they just don't pay their bill. Fraud being that somebody committed fraud to do it. They write it off on their taxes. They're passing along in interest fees. But that's not the only place. The reality is that the credit card companies aren't even out the money most of the time. It's the merchant that's out the money. Because when you agree to accept a credit card at your store, you say you'll make them show the credit card and a form of ID. Tell me someplace today where you go and show a credit card and a form of ID. Nowhere. Not the ATM, not online, not at the gas pump, not at self-checkout, not at the 7-Eleven where you're swiping your card through the little manual machine in front of you, not one place. So if the merchant didn't make you show ID and show the credit card, then the credit card company is going to do a chargeback from that merchant, and now they're left holding the bag. So they're not out that much money either. Then we get to testosterone poisoning. How many of you ever heard of testosterone poisoning? Anybody? Really? Out of this group. I'm kind of shocked by that. All right. I'm going to need you guys to help me with it a little bit. Here's how testosterone poisoning works. And it's scientifically and medically proven to be a factor in identity theft. If I walk into a Best Buy, an H.H. Gregg, or a Circuit City right now, what's the first thing I see when I walk in the door? A big plasma TV. Testosterone poisoning just started. All right? It just started to hit me. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh. I'm looking at it. Now, the customer service rep, they're in the back. They're watching me on a camera. They know they're not going to get me with one jolt because I'm a big boy, all right? So they go ahead and give me the second jolt. What is it? Surround sound. They hit me with it right away. Now I'm like, I'm starting to sweat. Now, think about it. Every one of them set up the same way. They'll have a football game playing on it or Days of Thunder, the race car movie. Remember that? Boom, boom, the cars go by. Now I'm sick. I'm starting to sweat. I'm feeling like I'm going to faint. I'm nauseous. I want to throw up. They know it. All right, they're watching me. They're like, uh-oh, look, we got him. All right, he's hurt. Now, if I faint, that's a problem for them. They don't want me to faint in their store because that's a civil liability issue, all right? So what do they do to keep me from fainting? They put a recliner right in front of the TV. Right there for you to sit down in, all right? So now I sit down. I'm feeling sick. They come out, and they're like, you okay? I'm like, I'm all right, man. I just pictured myself with that. I'm at home. I'm watching my Gators play. Not this weekend, by the way. I'm watching my Gators play. I'm eating Funyuns. I'm drinking Diet Coke. My wife and kids are gone. I don't even know where they are, but I got that system. They're like, oh, man, you'd look good with that. I know. I'm crying. All right, I take my glasses off. They hand me a handkerchief. I wipe my eyes, and as I put my glasses on, the final jolt of testosterone poisoning is administered. What is it? It's a sign on the side of the TV that says, buy today and no payments until 2099. I'll be dead by then. I'm getting that TV, all right? I'm counting. I'm going to be gone by then. I'm getting it, all right? We live in a society today where within 30 seconds I can give them my Social Security number or yours. They evaluate my beacon score, and I walk out the door with that entertainment center. That's the system we live in today. It's called instant credit. And it has to be instant. It has to be instant credit. It has to appeal to you right then and there to make the purchase. Why? Because, guys, if we don't buy it then, we go home and the estrogen destabilization factor takes over and we're not getting that TV, all right? It's got to be right then. Do they have culpability? Absolutely. That's almost criminal just in that in itself. But that's the world we live in. Instant credit is unintentionally driving this crime through the roof. It is one of the most problematic we deal with. And then lending organizations. All right? I'll use Walmart for example. How many of you know you can go to Walmart right now, never talk to a customer service rep, and get a credit card? Anybody know that? You go to the same kiosk, the electronic kiosk, that you do a baby shower gift with, or you apply for a job, or you handle your layaway purchase, all of that, and you apply for a credit card. If you qualify, which to qualify, you give them your name, your address, your Social Security number, punch it in, they will give you a credit card, and they'll give it to you right then. They will actually print out a paper receipt. You can go to the checkout lane, use it for your purchase, and then they'll ship you the hard plastic card from that. So that's where we live at today. Instant credit, the ability to do that. I can tell you, when they first put that system in, we arrested a guy in Daytona that had stood at the kiosk for 45 minutes punching people's names and social security number in. Nobody ever questioned him. Nobody ever stopped him. It's not like he was small either. He was 6'9", all right? It's not like they didn't see him. He was there. We saw him on the camera. When we got to him, he had come all the way from Connecticut